My name's Alan Carter. I'm the President and CEO of Cabral Gold. Cabral Gold is a TSX venture listed company. We have an advanced exploration gold project in Brazil. We currently have 2 gold deposits that contain around about 1 million ounces in resources. Within an 8-kilometer radius of those 2 deposits, we have 43 targets where we've got outcropping veins with high-grade gold. We currently have 5 rigs turning. So we are generating a lot of news, and we are anticipating drilling between 25 to 30,000 meters through to mid-2022. And we're right next door to an advanced development project which has just been acquired by G Mining from Eldorado Gold for $110 million, and that will be Brazil's 3rd largest gold mine.
Alan, good to see you.
Nice to be
in
here.
the flesh.
Yes,
at last.
finally.
At last. Well, you see, you're closer than most. You've been, down in Italy for parts of this. You've been obviously over in Brazil, Canada.
Yep.
Hasn't stopped you.
Well, it slowed me down a little bit, but life goes on, doesn't it? You've got to keep going. We've got 5 drill rigs turning, so we've been pretty busy as a team. We did shut the project down last year for 3 months, but since July last year, Matt, we've been hard at it. Yeah,
fantastic. Well, lovely to see you. You're over here for a conference, meeting investors, new investors, and some potential investors, I suspect.
Yeah,
how's that gone for you?
Very well. Yeah, it's been a good week actually. I think there's a real optimism around gold and gold price and actually equities, particularly in the exploration sector right now. So very positive reception. It's nice to see.
And also people looking at Brazil again.
Yeah. There's a lot going on in Brazil. A lot of people drilling, a lot of people exploring. As you know, some of the world's biggest gold miners have big mines there. Kinross's largest gold mine is in Brazil. Yamana's there, AngloGold Ashanti's there. Equinox have 4 mines in Brazil. There's a lot going on.
Right. I want to talk to you about this oxide blanket. We talked about it the last couple of times, right? But I want to see how quickly you're advancing things, because that feels like money on the ground. So what have you been doing?
Yeah, this is tremendously exciting. So as I said in the introduction, we have 2 hard rock gold deposits, which are about 5 kilometers apart. We've known about those for about 3 years now, actually a bit longer than that. Earlier this year in April, we discovered that one of these 2 gold deposits has a blanket on top of it of oxide material. And that is all unconsolidated material, Matt, and it's mineralized. So we're talking about soil, sand and mud up to 50 meters thick. The first blanket is now 36 hectares in size and is still growing. And it's resulted from over millions of years from the erosion of the underlying hard rock deposit in the granite. So it's eroded and it's formed like a sort of a bit of a mushroom on top, if you like.
Right.
So it's quite exciting. A lot of it's low-grade material. It has a high-grade core to it. We still don't have a resource on it yet, but we only discovered this one in April. And as you're probably aware, we now have a second one. The interesting thing about the second one, which is about 6 kilometers away, is we haven't found the stem to the mushroom yet. Yeah. So we're drilling for the stem to the mushroom, i.e. the underlying hard rock deposit. But this oxide material, it looks like there's quite a lot of it. It looks like there's several of these blankets within our project area, and it has massive implications.
Right, and I want to be clear with people. I want to focus on this. I know you've got the 2 core hard rock projects, and we'll talk about them in a second. But the reason I want to focus on this is because it possibly is a sort of anti-dilatory measure for shareholders, in the sense that yes, it's low grade, and yes, it's kind of dirt on the ground, but it's easy processing and could provide the money to allow you to do what you wanted to be doing, is going after this high grade stuff. But where are you in that process? Have you looked at the metallurgy? I mean, how quickly is this thing advancing?
Yeah, it's advancing really, really quickly. I mean, as I said, we only discovered the first blanket back in April, so that's a little over 6 months ago. Since then, we've got a second one. We've drilled probably within the 2 blankets, well over 100 holes now.
Right.
We've just collected 450 kilograms of metallurgical of material that we're going to be sending for metallurgical testing. So that is kind of key, because we want to know what the processing route is. Now, we should have the metallurgical results back on this material, at least from the first blanket, during the first quarter of next year, of 2022. That will tell us whether this material is amenable to heap leach.
i.e. cheap.
Very, very cheap if it's heap leach, very cheap. Or if not, then it'll probably be a combination of CIL and or gravity, which is still cheap.
Yeah.
And again, this material
because why? Because you're not crushing and grinding.
It's not like most gold deposits are in hard rock.
Right.
So the vast majority of people at the conference that I've just been in, a lot of them have gold deposits, but most of them are in very hard rock. Some of it's deep. You've got to, it's very costly to get at the stuff. This stuff by contrast,
sitting at surface.
is sitting at surface.
Right.
There's no drilling or blasting required. You just move in with front end loaders, scoop it up, and either put it on a pad or put it through a gravity plant.
Sounds
very cheap.
Too easy, doesn't it?
Nothing's too easy in this business, Matt. But look, these things are quite rare.
Yeah.
We think we might have a third one. And so tremendously exciting. So the steps are get the Met results back.
Right.
We're obviously working very hard on the permitting. We've got trial mining licenses over the first blanket. We own the land. We've obviously got the exploration claims as well. The permitting, I think, is advancing tremendously quickly. There's lots of great things happening on the permitting front. So I expect to have the permits to actually commence with the trial mining on both of these blankets within the next 3 months.
Right.
And then the Met work, middle of the next quarter, first quarter, and then we'll do a scoping study on it. So we could be looking potentially at a construction decision on a smaller plant for this oxide material within the next 9 to 12 months.
Right. So this is why I keep labouring the point, because it feels like free money sitting at surface. I get there's a small capex here. It's free money at surface, which will pay for the core focus on the hard rock stuff, right? But there's an arbitrage. You got to play off and say, well, do you know what? Is it better for me to go into market, draw more equity down out of the market, and get on with the high grade hard rock stuff, or does it make sense just spend a little bit of time and do something slightly anti-dilutory, which is process this? It's not the core business, but it's money, the easy money to make.
Yeah.
So that balance is one that you must think about.
Yeah, I do. I think about it all the time. Look, the exploration program, we've got 5 rigs turning, and the exploration program will continue. It's not focused. The oxide blankets, drilling off those oxide blankets, the 2 blankets, it's largely done. We are now drilling a third one with 1 rig, but we've got 4 other rigs turning. They're all continuing to test high-grade targets within the district.
Got it.
And that process will keep going, Matt. We're not going to stop exploring. But as you've said, the identification of these oxide blankets, we should be able to develop these at a fraction of the cost of what a hard rock operation would require in terms of capital. So that is very, very exciting. And that's very unusual. You know, look, you've been meeting with companies here in London over the last few weeks. I'd be interested to know how many other companies have sat here who have gold projects who have a nice oxide cap on surface. It's probably a very short number, if there's any.
2.
Yeah, okay, so 2.
And you're one of them.
Yeah, right. So it does open up that pathway to potentially fund all the exploration that's required on the district going forward. I mean, it is a district scale play. There are 43 really, really good targets, some of which we've got a little bit of drilling on, some of which there's high-grade veins sticking out the ground within this sort of 8-kilometre radius. There's no doubt it's a district with multiple deposits here. The question as for us as a small little company is, well, how do you best sort of advance that and explore all these things and drill test all these things without sort of blowing up the capital structure and continually diluting.
Exactly my point.
And as you know, I'm the largest shareholder in this.
Yeah.
So I've got $1.7 million of my own money at stake in that, which is a massive amount of my personal net worth. So it is something that I lay awake at night thinking about.
I'm glad I asked.
Yeah.
Impassioned response. Yeah, but it's why I kind of labour this point, is because small companies, when they talk the game of, we've got a district-wide opportunity, most of them haven't got a clue how they're going to come at it, because they know they're going to have to dilute the heck out of themselves and their shareholders to advance this, to even make a discovery.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Let alone actually produce cash at the end of this thing. So that's why I keep coming back to what I see as something quite exciting. I'm not sure the market's entirely woken up to the significance.
I agree. They haven't.
Of having this oxide blanket, at surface.
Yeah.
Look, made the point. I want people to understand that and pay attention to that. Let's get back to the main course here, which is obviously the hard rock projects, the high grade projects, which have been headline grabbing projects for you. You got, what did you say, 3 or 4 drills turning there?
5.
5 in total on those.
On the whole area. So there's one that's still doing the oxide
right.
stuff.
Okay, so you got 4.
So most
here.
of it's deeper.
Okay, so seeing a few press releases coming out. It seems to keep giving. Again, how do you play that game?
Look, having a district is really exciting, and you're right. There's a lot of companies who will say, "Well, we have a district," but actually, having a large land position does not mean that you have a district.
Right? It's potentially a liability. Yeah, is the way.
That's right. You can blow your brains out, as I just mentioned, continually drilling a few holes here, drilling a few holes there, etc., etc. But the fact that we've now got this oxide material that we could potentially come up to a construction decision next year on and build an operation there, albeit a modest-sized operation, with for a fraction of the cost of what much bigger hard rock operation would cost, really gives us the opportunity to be self-funding here. So that we're not dependent on continually going back to the market, raising capital, diluting. It gives us a completely different avenue. But it's one we're going to explore aggressively.
Absolutely. And I think for existing shareholders, they perhaps understand that. But for people looking in new, that's what you're walking into. Potentially, there'll be a small capex raise for for whatever, heap leach or
whatever that is. I mean, we won't know until we've got a scoping study, but based on similar sort of operations that, and there are very few of those, but we've got a bit of an idea of what the likelihood cost would be, but we'll need to do a little bit more work on it.
What does that look like in, say, relation to your stock price at the moment?
Well, I think the capital cost on this is going to be modest. I can't without a scoping study give you any numbers, but I can tell you it will be a fraction of what a much bigger operation would be.
Right. Okay. Maybe we'll know a little bit more. What's the timing on this? Sorry. What do you think? I know in the next 12 months you could be up and running, but
metallurgical results during Q1.
Got it.
2022. Permitting also by or during Q1.
Right.
And then
why have you got such confidence on the timing on permitting? Usually that's a problematic area.
Because we're already well advanced and we have 2 of the permits on the MG blanket already.
Got it.
We'd like to get the permits on the PDM blanket, and as I said, now there's a third possibility, which is above one of the 2 hard rock deposits there. So there could be 3 blankets here that we could have fully permitted here for trial mining at least during Q1 2022.
So it gives you a bit of a clue about where you'd position all this, where you place the processing.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So pretty advanced on that one. So again, so back to the main project, if you don't mind, which is again come back to the context of district conversation, small sub 100 million market cap companies talking to the district game. Have you learned a bit in the last couple of years about how you need to position that part of the story?
Look, I mean, where we are in northern Brazil, there's not been a lot of big gold mines in this part of Brazil. Most of Brazil's largest gold mines are quite a lot further south. As you're aware, there's a deal just been announced on the project next to us. That was closed the end of October, whereby there's a Canadian company, public company called G Mining, is acquiring the project next door from Eldorado for $110 million US. That just closed 3 weeks ago.
When you say next door, you literally...
The claim's contiguous, man.
Right, okay.
So the crow flies from sort of one of our 2 deposits, the southernmost deposit, MG, to their deposit's about 20 kilometres.
Okay, yeah, because I think they're coming on the show. Good group. Yeah. I think it'll get the eyes on Brazil. I think people have been looking at Brazil, but I think it kind of puts a spotlight on your particular state.
Yeah, it does, because particularly the eastern part of Brazil, the western part of Para state, which is hasn't had a lot going on. The eastern part, of course, is very famous in around the world for having the Carajás iron ore district. So there's a lot of big iron ore and now copper mines on the eastern side. And the western side, in the Tapajos, not so much. But let's not forget that the Tapajos in western Para state is the site of the world's largest ever recorded gold rush. So during the 1980s, there was 1 million people rushed into this area and were washing gold from the streams. The government of Brazil estimates there were 20 to 30 million ounces of placer gold extracted from the streams during the 1980s. I've been obsessed, as you know, with where that placer gold is being eroded from, where the hard rock sources are. Cuiú Cuiú, which is our key project, was the biggest placer camp during the gold rush. So, I think we think there's a very good chance, but because it had such a massive footprint in terms of the amount of placer gold that was produced during the 1980s, there should be a lot more gold there in the hard rock. And so with the 2 hard rock deposits that we've found so far, we think they explain about 10% of the placer gold, i.e. you can see that the streams draining these deposits have been mined and all the rest of it. But there's lots more streams that are draining different parts of the property area. Yeah. So the question is, where's the other 90% of the placer gold being eroded from? So it's tremendously exciting. So I don't know. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think the G mining thing, again, I think it's a bigger deal than people realise, because they're good guys. They know what they're doing. people are interested in that district. But then kind of leads on to the next obvious question, which is, do you think there's going to be kind of consolidation in the region? Because there's a lot of sort of smaller mining groups, in and around, and they're doing okay, but there's a lot of money being produced out there at the moment by the producers at these gold prices. Is fantastic.
Yeah.
Do you think there's going to be a bit of consolidation coming up?
I think there could well be. Yeah. I mean, I think in the case of G Mining next door, they're redoing the feasibility study. Apparently, by the end of Q1, the next 3 or 4 months, they will have a revised feasibility study. I think the capital cost is likely to come in between 400 and 450 million US dollars, based on what Eldorado's feasibility was, which was a bit higher than that. I do think there is a potential for consolidation moving forward, both in Brazil and in the sector in general. And I think you're starting to see that. I mean, there's some bigger deals in the industry-wide that are, really starting to make the headlines.
So where's I put a company like you? You've got a district.
Yeah.
Like I say, can be a liability in the sense that you could sit there for years and not touch most of it, right?
Yeah.
And you've got players like G Mining and others, and some of the big names that you've mentioned there, where you could do farming deals with those guys. You could spin out, you could give up, sell, vend parts of your district to those guys. Is that part of the consideration in terms of funding going forward?
It's something that we look at. We have. I've been looking at gold projects for decades, longer than I care to imagine, really. But I've seen hundreds of gold projects. I can't ever recall looking at a gold project like Cuiú Cuiú. It's very unusual. It's unusual because there's so much gold come out of the streams, and there's so many veins and different targets here. We've got boulders running multi-ounce numbers, not just in one part of the property, in a dozen places on the property. I mean, it is very, very unusual, Matt. So, the question, as you said, that could be a liability because you've got so many targets. I mean, I certainly don't want to be sat here in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, still talking about the exploration potential.
That's my point.
We need to aggressively move forward and test all these things as best we can and get to 80 to 20 on the district. That is 80% certainty that we've tested all these things.
Or let someone else tackle some of the property, right? Yep. Because otherwise, there's only so much money.
Yep.
There's only so much drilling and so much time that you as a company can apply here. You could be on this thing for the next 50 years, right? So how do you monetize that today? Do you allocate some of your money and try and work out a little bit of what's going on and then flip it out? Or do you get someone in now and just get, tough on the negotiation in terms of what that contract looks like?
Yeah, I mean, look, that's something that I think there is an opportunity for us with this oxide mineralization to break that cycle.
Right.
So that rather than keeping going back saying, yes, we've got some exploration results here, but we need another chunk of cash to see us through the next 12 months to drill another half a dozen targets. I mean, if we actually produce from this oxide material, it will allow us to self-fund it and probably make some money as well. So, it does give us the opportunity to sort of like disrupt that kind of cycle, if you like.
Yeah, true. Okay, Alan, I'm going to shake your hand. Say, lovely to see you in the flesh again. It's been too long. Look, lot going on. Busy year next year for you guys. Hopefully going into quite a positive precious metal market. Come back and let us know how you get on with some of these deliverables. Certainly in metallurgy, I'd be fascinated to see what that throws up.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Matt.